Welcome to part 3 of Sagaia. And yes, I am going to continue to call this game Sagaia and not Darius II because that's the name of the North American version. And since I'm from North America, that's the version I grew up with. It's not a Final Fantasy 3-6 situation. I don't know what to tell you. The moon levels right here, zones G through J, is where the game gets tougher. You got more turrets that shoot in awkward directions, you got these missiles that take a lot of punishment, you got that frog enemy that comes in from behind, I don't know what that is. Yeah, just a lot of mayhem. This level in particular has those little tentacles on the ceilings and floors which will hold you in place. They don't harm you, but they will hold you in place, which can be annoying if there's enemies flying at you. But other than that, this level is really simple, and really short too. Zone G is one of the shorter levels in the game. The moon's mini-boss is a giant squid with two different attacks. The first attack being a sort of homing shot mixed in with straight lasers, and the second attack is a three-way spread shot. You can just weave up and down in order to avoid all that. You can shoot off the two tentacles in order to get him to stop doing the homing attacks, and also net you some points too. I'm going on record to say that despite how big the shield looks in this game, the hitbox itself is the Silverhawk, so you can graze by a lot of things and not have to worry about the shield depleting. Unlike Gradius games where rubbing your shield against anything will just deplete it instantly. But then again, I can see why the hitbox for the Silverhawk shields are the same size as the Silverhawk itself. Ship's pretty big, it's a big sprite. This is what mostly differentiated the console version from the arcade version. In the arcade version, the playing field was much wider because it had a 2 or 3 screen setup and the sprites were way smaller. Here's a screenshot of what the arcade version looks like. As you can tell, the Sega Genesis and the Sega Master System version, because they had to make a Sega Master System version of a 16-bit game for some reason, tried their best to get everything onto the screen without compromise, and some of it works, mostly on Genesis but not on Master System. I can show you the Master System version later, it's not really that good. That is not a sound glitch, the boss just straight up doesn't have music for some reason. Steel Spine is easy. He'll shoot out these missiles which you can blow up so they're not a problem. He also has this predictable bullet pattern as well as a straight laser. Whenever he shoots the bullets, it's literally just going up, then down, then up, then down, and there are really big gaps in between the bullets. Getting hit by the bullets would be pretty stupid. Steel Spine's weak point is the laser cannon. It's not the eyes, believe it or not. You do have to blast away at the boss's shield at the beginning of the fight before you can take him on, but the shield's not really that powerful, it goes down in a few shots. G-Zone is over. Now the next Moon Zone is a corridor level, and I definitely love me some corridor. No, I don't. I can already tell that Jupiter's gonna kick my ass really hard. Jupiter's a really hard zone. Zones. And plural. The beginning of this song sounds like an off-brand People's Court theme with military drum kits. Oh yeah, I did mention at the end of the last part that these songs in-game have names, and they're really weird names. I'm gonna talk about them right now. Olga Breeze is the name of the first level's theme, the sun, and that makes no sense because it's supposed to be Orga, not Olga, and we're not even on planet Orga. Muse Valley is the name of the Mercury levels, and is there a place on Mercury called Muse Valley? Because I looked it up and it doesn't exist. Jamming is the Venus levels theme, and I guess that makes sense because we're destroying satellite dishes? Cynthia is the name of the moon levels theme, which actually makes sense. And Planet Blue also makes sense for the Earth's theme. Tunari is Mars's theme's name, and that makes no sense. I don't know what that means. And just guess what Jupiter's theme name is. Just actually guess. The song is called Say Papa. And despite the Jupiter song having the dumbest name on the planet, it's ironically one of the better songs in the game. It actually serves as the ending credits theme too. So to the music composer of this game, good job, but your naming convention could use a bit of work. But back on the subject of this zone, there are missiles that are going to shoot way faster than they did before, which may cause some problems because they're fitting through tight corridors. And then you have these shutter doors that like to open in and close in on you. Like, pick a side, do you want to be open or closed? Like, what's that door doing? Is it broken? Do you want me to call repairman? Like, I'm sure I could drag Tim Allen out of retirement so he could look at you. But besides the indecisive doors and the fast-moving enemies, this level is not that bad. On the Genesis version. Now, the arcade version will kick your ass. Actually, it kicks your ass as soon as Mercury. The arcade game is no joke. Steel Spine is the same as before. He does nothing different on this pathway, so I'm just gonna fast forward right here and do the same for the other pathways as well. Yeah, giant fish. I'm not sure why the Darius series are fascinated with giant sea creatures in space, but it's something different compared to the average space shooter. What did I just get hit by? The next moon zone is going to be a more straightforward stage. And who knows, maybe alongside destroying the evil fish, we can actually find evidence pointing to whether or not Stanley Kubrick actually faked the moon landing. But seeing as 2001 is way ahead of its time, I believe that Stanley Kubrick was on the moon when he filmed that movie. This level is a thing. If you just stick to the middle of the screen, you should be fine. There's no real sense of danger here. You also have these square floating monoliths with circuitry on them. That's the best way I can describe them. They have a lot of health, but if you keep pounding away at them, they will go down eventually. Now I know for sure that the unique bosses don't start showing up until the Earth zones, which is next part. We're in luck. This stage does have a good theme, but like most Sega Genesis games from before 1995, the sound tends to get cut off by the sound effects, or I should say the music gets cut off by the sound effects, and it kind of butchers the instruments a bit. Oh, Golnax fell victim to this, and yes, that game did come out in 1989. It was essentially a launch title, almost, but still, it would have benefited from multiple sound channels, and not just one and a half. Zone I tends to drag on a bit, but there is a little secret for this zone's boss fight. Don't worry, it's still Steel Spine, for some reason, but there will be something that will help you out during the boss fight. I forgot to mention that you have these green clamps on the floor that shoot bubbles at you, and that makes no sense. Bubbles can't form in space. Alright, one more stretch of enemies and then you're at the boss. It's more of these monolith things, and you can tell you're at the boss because the ground starts to go away. So I'm not going to fast forward this part of the boss fight because something comes up that helps me out tremendously, and it takes off pretty much all of the Steel Spine's health in 2 seconds. See that thing right there? That's a bomb. A bomb actually helps me out during the fight. That's the only time a bomb will help me out ever. So, moral of the story is, if you want to destroy Steel Spine in 2 seconds, just go to Zone I. You'll love it. You probably won't love the level though, it's pretty tedious. Alright, so final zone for this part, that'll be Zone J. And Zone J is another space level. They don't even bother to recolor it from Venus, it's just another space level with different enemies this time. This zone is thankfully not as tedious as Zone I. There's a lot more enemy patterns and formations to get around, and despite it being a space level, the enemies can fill up the screen really quickly here. Keep shooting, stay at the center of the screen but move when you have to, and those satellites that orbit in a circle take a lot of hits, but they will offer a huge point bonus when you destroy all of them. And the squid's back, yay! Even though the big bosses will change throughout the game, the mini bosses will stay the same. They never change throughout the different zones. Or rather, I should say that mini bosses don't change on different zones of the same planet. So this squid is exclusive to the moon. The Earth is going to have its own exclusive mini boss, even though it has 2 different end bosses. Yeah, it's kind of confusing, but it's Darius. The series in and of itself is really confusing, so yeah. You also have these shrimp enemies that circle in on you. They're not that big a deal. Your lasers will cut them down in like 2 hits. Maybe 1. You also have to be on guard for these torpedoes that shoot out when they get destroyed. They just explode into 4 bullets. Dodge accordingly. Oh, the bombs actually helped me out twice. That's a first. They're usually located in areas where there's no enemies. As you can tell, I'm really fascinated in destroying those satellites, but I'm just taking 1,000,001 hits to take down, and what do? I get greedy and lost my shield. But there was a backup shield right in front of me, so I just snatched that real quick. Continuing is painful. You really don't want to die in the middle of these stages because then it will be near impossible to get back your weapons. You do get a ton of 1-ups though, or free men as my mom would call it, either from the point system or just finding random 1-ups throughout the level. And no, it's not like Mega Man 5 or 6 where the algorithm for 1-ups is just incredibly broken. You have to earn these extra lives here yourself, either by looking for them or just collecting a whole bunch of points. Yeah, we know how this boss fight works. You just shoot the barriers and then you shoot him in the face and he dies. And there's no bomb here, so we're kind of shit out of luck and we have to do it the hard way. I don't understand why this boss in particular is the only boss in the game to not have music. That is so weird. J-Zone is over. Joker here? No, I'm kidding. I would end the part right here, but I still want to show you the Sega Master System version of Sagaia, which is... I hope you enjoy. Okay, the Master System version. I will give it credit in that it's trying to be as close to the arcade and Genesis versions as possible, but then again, it's a bit too ambitious and it kind of falls short in some aspects. You will see as the game slows down and it has a lot of flicker. I don't hate this version of the game, but it's objectively the worst version compared to the other 2 that I just mentioned. It still has good music though, and I would rate this music above the arcade version any day. I don't care to change the difficulty setting, I was just trying to get footage, so I kinda left everything as is, but changed the character to Tiat. As you can tell, the graphics in this game are already amazing for 8-bit standards. Like, the wavy pattern in the background is pretty graphic intensive, but at a cost, it does slow the game down. But the game really slows down when there's more than 5 or 6 enemies on screen with you at the same time. It's not too bad with these asteroids, but the hopping enemies that come out of the sun, that's when they slow the game down really bad. And here's an example of the bad flickering. This poor fish on fire is not showing up fully, and it may be bad on YouTube, but it's just as bad watching it on a TV in 60 frames per second. Hey, do you hear that? That's the sound of the Sega Master System crying. You can tell by the slowdown. Look, I'm not trying to bash this version of the game, but it's trying its best, it really is, but my god, what is going on here? It's Super Nintendo Gradius 3 levels of slowdown. Actually, it's kind of worse in that regard. Yeah, it's actually worse than Gradius 3 on the Super Nintendo. In terms of slowdown. So it's actually commonplace in 8-bit shooters for the background to just disappear completely during boss fights, because you got a big sprite and you got your ship, and probably something else like a bomb or something. And instead of turning on the fly like you can in the other versions of the game, the screen just fades to black really quickly and you just turn around off screen. Yeah, shortcuts. Did I mention that the soundtrack to the Master System version is just really good? It has that Master System sound. I can't really explain it, but it complements this version for some reason. I don't know how. And instead of 28 different zones, you now have 12 different zones. This version is lacking in levels, but then again, it's probably for the best as some of those levels were copy and pasted. Anyway, I'll see you in part 4 of Sagaia, where we visit Earth.